So, hi everyone. Hi Yashmin. Hi Ratan. So, let's get started with UMS 18. So, I'll be sharing my screen. So, is it visible?
Yes.
Yes.
This is metrics. Okay. So, first, let's dive into the MFA part. Then I'll continue with the other APIs. Going to UMS in routes. I have created a special file for MFA APIs only. So for MFA, we have three APIs: register, verify, and reset. In these three APIs, complete MFA flow is done. Okay, so coming to register, this API is used for first time registration of a user with MFA. Okay, and then next verify API that is used for verifying the 6-digit OTP of a user during MFA. Then we have reset API that will be used for resetting a pre-existing MFA. So let's say if we have forgotten the MFA or we need to change our MFA type for that particular reason only, we have added reset API as well. Okay. So let's dive into the code flow. So register API. So yeah, so register API, it is a post request that will accept three parameters with the body. That is username, MFA type, and session ID. So session ID is here used as a uh, what to tell an authorization token. So without MFA, the usual response from login API. So let me go to that first. So login API. Here is login API. So yeah, so username and password are there. Once it is sent, when MFA is disabled, so you can see here if MFA is enabled. So there is a check for that. Um, so this is a global check for complete container. So MFA enabled will be disabled uh, uh, globally. So even if you go to the init file, you can see if it is if that variable is enabled, only then this APIs are enabled, or else these are completely disabled from Python application itself. Okay, so going to that, yeah. So based on MFA enabled, the result will be set. So this result will depend based on our login API. So let's say MFA enabled is false at the moment, then the result will be what to tell it will be throwing us auth token in the response. For example, um, login. So we have two types of responses for user login. So one is with MFA enabled and one is without MFA. So when it is without MFA, you will get MFA required. So this will tell whether we have to use verify API or not, whether the registration is done or not, what type of registration has been done, and MFA message, and we will have a token. This is without MFA, but with MFA, we will get session ID in the response. So this session ID will then be used in the MFA APIs. Any doubts up to this, guys?
No,
None.
it's clear.
Okay. Okay. So coming to registration, so username that is a unique user identifier name. So that is used as a base identifier for the user. Then MFA type. So currently MFA type, there are only two MFA types that are supported. So I think they must be in config file. So yeah, MFA configs. So you can see. Okay. Yeah, so MFA supported type. So you can see TOTP and HOTP. TOTP is time-based OTP. So that is actually QR code based one. So every 30 seconds, by default, it is 30 seconds. So every 30 seconds, it will be changing the OTP. And HOTP is the standard what to tell OTP, which is using HOTP in the background. So HOTP is nothing as a counter-based OTP. So for each OTP to generate, we will need to send a variable for counter. So that one also you can see HOTP counter. So I have set it to 15 by default. So the payload will be changing in our case. So for that payload, every payload that changes, a unique OTP will be generated, but the counter will be used always as 50. So the backend for HOTP, sorry, the standard OTP is based on HOTP, which is counter based. Okay, continuing. And session ID is for authorization. So after during registration, we will even say uh, first we will check the user validity, whether the user is a valid user or uh, a fake user. So that check is that first. Then we will check the session ID. So then we will check like whether the session ID is generated in the backend. So this is this especially it is used for noting down that the user has hit login API at least once. So for that use case, this session ID here, it is being checked. Next, we will check whether MFA exists. So let's say user has registered, but he is trying to re-register. So that we should block it. So that part. This is. Next, we are checking for MFA valid type. So we have, as I told in the config, we have two supported types, so that it will be checked whether the user has input the same thing or okay. And then finally, we have a registration for MFA for a new user, completely fresh user. So yeah. So for registration, I'm using MFA DB. Yeah, so you can see MFA Mongo collection. So by default, it is MFA. So yeah, so hash is stored. So that is a MFA hash. This is generated based on the username. So you can see username, a timestamp, and yeah, username and the timestamp. Based on that, I'm generating a hash with salt based generation. Yeah, so hash username, email of that particular user, and then the time at which time that the user is being registered for MFA, and the time of type of MFA. So based on this, I am using a mapper. So you can see a dictionary which has uh, type of the OTP, and based on this, various functions are there. So verifier function for this particular OTP for post after post login, which function has to be called. So based on that, and next after post after registration, that is post registration also, we'll call a function. So for those types, I mean, it is defined in this particular MFA utils, MFA type mapper. Uh, any doubts, guys? Or shall I continue?
You can go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, so based on this mapper, based on the OTP type that we choose, it will call the uh, functions. Like if there is a post registration function, it will call that function. If if it is a login part, then it will call that particular part verification part. So this will be the global type mapper for each OTP type. Okay, so going to the registration is done. So let's go with verify MFA. So verify can be used only after registration is done. So if there is no registration done, it will fail. The API will ask us to uh, register first. So in the payload, so let me take to the MFA API. So yeah, register username, MFA type, valid MFA type has to be appended here, the session ID. So going to next one, verify. So the payload is simple, username. So to identify the user, session ID for authorization of that particular user, and then auth OTP where the 6-digit OTP string will be sent. Okay. So I'll explain use HOTP once I'm done with all the three APIs. So let's go back to verify. So first check would be uh, uh, if MFA exists for that particular user. So whether that registration of that user is done or not. So that check is first. Then we check whether the session ID is active, valid session ID. Then we go ahead with verification of that MFA type based on that user type. So you can see username and auth OTP. So auth, so we get the MFA data and we get the session data and we match it. So you can see here auth status. So verify function is called for that. Okay, so yeah, verification function here you can see from that mapper we are choosing the type and based on verifier function for that particular OTP type only we are hitting with that particular auth data. Okay, so this part is for verification. Next, coming to reset. So reset is very simple API, nothing complex. Username in the uh, uh, body and auth token is appended to the headers for checking whether if the user is authorized or not. And then if what to tell if MFA exists in the DB, then it will be removed, or else it will throw an error that there is no registration done. Please do register. That's it. And also, I have added, I think, user ID validation also. So user ID and username. Okay. This is not reset MFA. So you can see here, collection will be deleted. Collection dot delete one that record ID. Okay. So let's go back to uh, reset API. So reset API is also post API, and only username is sent in the body, and it is a private API. It is not a public API. Whereas register and verify, they are both public APIs. Okay. Next, coming to use HOTP. So this is a fallback mechanism. Let's say the user has registered using TOTP, and let's say he deleted an email, TOTP email where the QR code will be there. So that is deleted, or he has, you know, something by mistake he has lost the email. Let's say. So that time we use a fallback mechanism to send to use one of the standard OTP type. So that is standard OTP type, which is in our Anuvaad application currently, it is emailing the OTP to the email ID of the user. So when use HOTP true is there, that time it will fall back to uh, HOTP by default. So let's say user has registered using TOTP QR code based, but uh, he is not able to fetch the QR code based OTP. So he can then use this particular way method to log into the application. So so use a HOTP is used in verification also and in the login API also. So you can see use HOTP false. So if it is false, then whatever user has registered, that will be used for MFA verification. If use HOTP true is there, then the default one, which is OTP will be generated and sent to email. So that part will be used. So this is a default mechanism, fallback mechanism. So, that's all about MFA. So let's deep dive into UMS other APIs. So yeah, first of all, we have create. So this will be used to create new users. These are non-org based users. So let's say uh, uh, in developers and users, we have a public creation of users. So we can at that time this API is called to create users. Okay, and the body is simple. With user, we have certain mandatory fields like name, username, password. So once these are all a validation for each of them will be done, and then user will be created. Uh, the sample output would be something like this. The users were created successfully. So create this API can be used to create multiple or a single user. So inside user, it will be a list of users data. So you can create single or multiple. Okay. Next, going to onboard users. So onboard users is used by admins to create users. So let's say mm, in JUD environment where we don't have public user creation, so that time admins will be able to only admins have the right to create users. So at that moment we use onboard users API instead of create users create API. Okay. Next, verify user. So once the user is created, this API used to verify the user. I mean, it's just a step to verify the user whether he is a person, not a robot. So an email will be sent to the moment they use create API and they create a user. An email will be sent to that particular email ID. So here you can see this email ID, right? So for that particular email ID, an email will be sent. That email ID will have this particular URL, post URL in. So once this URL is hit, the user will be verified in the DB. So if user is not verified, he won't be able to log in into the application. Next, activate user. So this API is used for activate or deactivate the account. So this is only used for org purpose only. So let's say if a general public user is there they don't have activate and deactivation part. Next update. So it is same as create an onboard users API, the same flow, uh, same payload data, just a new updated version of the data was used here and it will be updated. Okay. Next, search. So search API. Yeah. So search API used to search users. This is again used by organizations only. So admins and super admins only they use this particular API to search the user, and we can search the user by user ID, usernames, and their role codes as well. Okay. Next, we have auth token search. So this is a public API where payload is the token. For example, okay, yeah. It is a string of that auth particular auth token. So this API is used to validate whether this particular a token is authorized by the application or not. So you can see a sample. I think this is by mistake I've not created. Okay, yeah, this is correct only. So we have the metadata of the user. So you can see user ID, name, username, etc., etc. So whether it's verified activation time or not, which org he belongs to. So with auth token, we can get the complete user detail. Okay. Next, we have login API. So login API, as I said, it has two ways. One is with MFA and one without MFA. So a username and password and use HOTP at the body, and the response it will be based on MFA enable whether MFA is enabled on the server or not. If it is enabled, then we will receive session ID. If it is disabled, then we will receive token. So this token we can directly use for private API. Next, logout API. This API is used to uh, deactivate a auth token in simple terms. So here the body will consist of username and the header will be of you can see it is a private API. Yeah, so these are public API. This is a private API. So auth token will be sent in the header and that auth token will be deactivated from the DB. Okay. Next, forgot password. So this one is used to reset the password by the after the login process is completed. So once, let's say, user has logged in, so after that he wants to reset his password. That time this API is used. Forgot password. Sorry. Oh, yeah. So reset password is used like that. Forget password is used to generate an email. So for an email consisting of reset password logic will be sent to user's email. So that time this forgot password API is used, and reset password is used to add a new password instead of old password to the user. So you can see the body is very simple: username, password. This is the new password, and old password is there to check whether the old password is correct or not. Okay. Next, we have something called as update email. So this is used recently for the application as MFA was enabled. So this updation is only once. So that's I mean in a DB we have a boolean value. So based on that it will be checked and the new email of the user will be updated. Okay. Next we have something called as active users. So this will it's a get API and it is a public API. It will throw us the count of current users active on the server on the particular server. So let's say here the count is 4. Okay, so 4 users have recently hit a private API. So this count will only increase if user hits a private API. So for example, metrics API are all public APIs, right? So let's say if a user hits those API, then I mean the user count won't activate it because only private APIs are only counted for this particular metric. Okay, and next we have organization and uh, extension. So extension, I think it is deprecated, but we can go ahead with organization. So upsert is used to create an update organization. So let's say we want to add a new organization or update a part of our organization, then uh, this API is used. It's a simple one, organizations, and you can add multiple as well. Code is a unique name for that particular organization, activation, boolean variable, and description of that particular organization. Next, we have org search. So this, I think, it is used by super admins majorly. So it will return all the organizations that are available in the application. So Any doubts, guys?
None, Dheeraj.
Okay, then I'll continue with the metrics. So,
So in
so
case if we need to disable MFA, we just need to change that config. Nothing else.
yes, so in config, you have MFA enabled. The moment
Mhm.
it is the value of that is false, it will be disabled. And I mean, let's say uh, it will work also if uh, we have recently deployed. So let's say now currently MFA is enabled and I have logged in and I've created a auth token as well,
Mhm.
verified the MFA also. And let's say we deploy the server again with MFA is disabled.
Okay.
So in that case also, if we use the auth token that was uh, uh, used or created before this disablement, then it
Mhm.
will work. Still, it will work. I mean to say. So I mean, this MFA enabled or disabled does not interfere with application.
Okay. Okay. So if a new user onboard with this MFA support and all, later on, even if we disable this MFA and deploy a build, like he won't have
Mm.
any issue.
Yeah, and that be no issue.
Okay, fine.
Okay. So next, going to metrics. Yeah. Yes. Okay. So let's go with the latest API, that is reviewer data metrics. Then we will cover all the other APIs. Okay. So that is upload doc underscore count. I think we better change it to review underscore count or something else, because this will be confusing because we already have doc count. Yeah. So here the the Flask application is written in db retrieval.py. So inside this we have the Flask application. Okay. So let's go back to the latest API. Yeah. So upload doc count. So the we can use it even get and even post. So get is used to fetch the metrics. Post is used to run this particular update the particular metrics. So this is a private API only for developers use case only. Okay. So yeah. So fetching is very simple. We have a base file and a cron file. So base file is from particular time period, and cron file is run regularly in interval. Okay, so based on these two files, we will generate the metrics. We have some pre-filters as well, masking and removal of alpha in the language, repairing the string as well. Okay, so going to config. Yeah, so here you can see reviewer date, database start date. So it starts from 2000, first month, first date. It ends at 2023 430. So for base file, the start date and the end date are these two. Okay, and for cron file, it will be start date will be end of date plus one. So this will be fifth month, that is May 1st 2023 to up to this time, up to the starting of the time where cron starts. So that will be used. So those there are two files always in the server. One is base file and another one is cron, which is updated regularly. Okay. Mask orgs. So this is used to mask the orgs in the environment. So let's say we want to remove a particular organization from the matrix. So that time this particular list is used to mask it. Then we have something called as org replacer. So this will be used for renaming or changing the org name. So Nepal will be renamed to Sikkim, and Simla will be renamed to Shimla, and so on. Okay. And for org masking, we have a Boolean environment variable. So you can see if the value is, if this is set to true, then org masking will be done, or else it will be, masking won't be done. So by default, it is uh, false by default. Okay, so by default on JUD and users, we have this particular org mask, but wherein developers this is set to true. So the moment it is true, this will be disabled. So we will even get masked orgs metrics in developer zone, as this is enabled only in developers. As okay, so let's go to the cron logic now. Yeah. So this is a reviewer data cron. So ID of that, and it runs from Monday to Friday, or two times. That is morning 8 o'clock and evening 6 o'clock. The cron job is run. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So base will be by default false. That is as it is a cron job. So I've kept it as base as false. If it is true, then the base that is from 2000 to 2023, that one will run. Okay. So it's a simple aggregation logic to fetch the data. So we have here the fetching of the data. So from workflow manager collection with start date and end date, getting the data. So you can see I'm matching the start date, start time with from date and end date. Then we have workflow code, so it has to be between all this four only. And the active document should be active. So non-active documents will be removed. They won't be added to the matrix. Okay, and then I'm aggregating the group grouping the data based on org status source, that is the source language of the document, and target language of the document. Based on this, I'm getting the code. Any doubts in this part? Please. Yeah, so this was get API and the post API. So this API is used to run this cron manually. Okay, so here we have only one request, one payload in the body. So that is base. So if base is true, then the base cron is run. So in config, I showed that there are two reviewer metrics, right? One is base one and another one is cron. So if base is true, then this file will be updated. If it is false, then this particular file will be updated. So this is this API. If it is in the post, by default, base will be set to false. So cron will be updated manually. So let's say manually cron will be run, that particular cron file, reviewer data cron file. So that will be updated. Uh, Next, recently we have also added manual run of the uh, cron. So as the moment server is container of Anuvaad metrics is deployed, metrics cron will be run manually. So that part, it is available in scheduler jobs.py. Here I have created the functions. So you can see manual start reviewer data scheduler base equal to true. So that is base file for reviewer data, and this is for cron files for reviewer data. Then we have uh, other cron that like we have only two crons. One is for reviewer data and another one which is for all the other metrics. So that also it is here. manner. Okay. So coming to other APIs of metrics, so we have first as a lang count. So here we will get document count based on the source language. So total number of documents in the server based on source language. So source language is uh, in the payload body. It has to be provided, and based on that particular source language, target language, and their sentence count will be uh, thrown for metrics. Sent for metrics. Okay, this is data lang count API. Next, we have languages. So this will get all the list of languages and the list of orgs supported by but that particular instance of Anuvaad application. Okay. So sample is output is very simple. You have languages and it says whether it is that language is particularly active or not, and same for all the code of the or this system. Next, we have verified count. So this will get us the count for verified sentences in the document. So example you can see here. So target language is Hindi. For this, total number of documents are 1500, and the verified sentences within these documents are 812 total. Okay. Next, we have doc count. So this will get number of document based on organization. So these are not uh, reviewed documents. These are uh, just translated or digitized documents. So per organization also we have that metric. You can see docs. These many sentences are there, and these many docs are there for organization Anuvaad. Okay. So any further doubts? I think done.
None, Dheeraj. None as of now.
No, nothing. So
Sure.
here instead of DB, all the metrics are stored in that CSV file. Is it?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
We cannot hit DB the moment the user wants a
Understood.
metric. So we'll run a cron per day twice, I think,
Mhm.
and then we get the data.
Hello?
Hello.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I think we can stop. So
Yeah, then please stop the record.
Just 1 minute. Yeah, done.